U.S. skier Lindsey Vonn promising to represent Americans at the Winter Olympics, but not every American.
How will it feel competing at an Olympic Games for a United States whose president is Donald Trump?
Well, I hope to represent the people of the United States, not the president. I don't think there are a lot of people currently in our government that do that.
Would you accept an invitation to the White House if you were to win Olympic gold in Pyeongchang?
Absolutely not, no. But I have to win to be invited, so. No, actually, I think every U.S. team member is invited, so no, I won't go.
But for you, it's definitely not?
No.
It's definitely not for Lindsey Vonn. Joining us now with her reaction, Fox News contributor Tomi Lahren. Tomi, thanks for joining us this morning. Okay, so I just want to turn on the Olympics, watch my team, watch my country go win gold. But preemptively, she's telling me, well, but I'm only in not in for President Trump. I'm just in for others, and I'm not going to the White House. What do you say to that?
Well, here's my question. What about the Americans who are Trump supporters that voted for President Donald Trump? Are we not Americans? Does she not want to represent us? I think that these athletes, boy, they just can't help themselves, can they? They have to get political, and they have to say things that not only disrespect the President of the United States, but disrespect so many Americans that are supporting the President, that are supporting their country. It's like patriotism is so foreign to them, they just can't stand it.
Hey, Tomi, let me ask you, do you think, though, everybody's piling on Lindsey Vonn a little bit here, and I want to just ask you, the way that the interviewer, the reporter asked that question, did she sort of lead Vonn to that response?
Well, I think that there's some truth to that, but you can tell by Lindsey Vonn's response that she's pretty sure of her answer already, and she's not going to go to the White House. And she even said, yeah, I know maybe I shouldn't stick my nose in politics, but I still have a voice. I want to be heard. Again, this goes on Lindsey's shoulders there. She chose to make that statement, and I think that the Americans that are Trump supporters, we're going to feel a certain kind of way about that because she had to go and be political and disrespect our president like so many other athletes have done before her.
Now, speaking of other athletes disrespecting presidents, Tomi, let me ask you this. What many call America's quarterback, Tom Brady, right, of New England Patriots, looking again to another almost MVP season. Goodness, that guy can't be stopped. But we know that Tom Brady declined to go to the White House when invited by President Obama when the Patriots won the Super Bowl. So was that also a display, you think, of not being patriotic?
Well, for me, I wouldn't have made that decision, and I do think that that is disappointing. I mean, I think it would be hypocritical for me to sit here and say that some are allowed to disrespect President Obama. I can tell you, even though I was not an Obama supporter, if I was invited to the White House, I would have gone because that is a symbol of American pride. That's patriotism. That's your country. So whether it's President Obama, whether it's President Trump, or God forbid, if it would have been President Clinton, I think we still respect the office of the president, and we respect the Americans that are around us who may not agree with us politically, but they're Americans nonetheless. And we represent our country.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Let's on to some millennial conversations here. It turns out, you know, there's been a lot of conversation about their disposition. Some people like to call them snowflakes. Well, a new survey by the British health insurance firm Aviva found that 72% of 16 to 24-year-olds in the UK believe that the term snowflake is unfairly applied, and it actually affects them negatively, their mental health. So not only do they need safe spaces, but if you tell them they're a snowflake, they need to be even safer.
I think I probably had a lot to do with that because that's one of the terms that I used a lot last election season and continue to use it. And I'm a millennial, and I can say to millennials that are offended by being called a snowflake, or God forbid, their mental health is in the balance because they're being called a snowflake. They need to understand this. Listen to me loud and clear. We need to get over the notion that the worst thing that can happen to us is our feelings are hurt or we're offended. The best way not to be offended by everything is to simply not be offended. Get over it. There are people in all corners of this globe that are dealing with real issues. And if the worst thing that's happening to you is that someone is calling you a snowflake and that's triggering you, my goodness, what a problem to have.
How in the world are we going to beat ISIS?
Toughen that self-esteem up,
How are we
right?
going to beat ISIS? All right, thank you for that, Tomi Lahren. We'll leave it right there.
It's time for final thoughts. Breaking news! The destroyed Trump media refuses to highlight any of his accomplishments, unlike the 8 years these journalists spent sucking up to Barack Obama. The mainstream media wants to see Trump fail badly, even at the expense of the American people. Truth is, President Trump has done more in 11 months than Barack Obama did in 4 or even 8 years. President Trump has also done more in less than a year than the GOP establishment has done in a decade. He makes them look bad. Maybe that's why the swamp types hate him so much. So what, you ask? Well, how about December alone? Let's start with the economy. 228,000 jobs created last month, an almost 30% gain in the stock market since Trump was elected. Gross domestic product is set to hit 3 consecutive quarters of more than 3% growth. The jobless rate is at a 17-year low. And how about immigration? Well, wall prototypes are in the works, and beyond that, the Department of Homeland Security reports Border Patrol arrests have dropped to a 45-year low. That's down 25% from this time last year. It's amazing what happens when the president vows to secure the border, isn't it? Oh, and the military? Well, ask ISIS how it feels to battle an American fighting force that's actually allowed to engage and win. President Trump is also putting an end to the transgender military social experiment, asking for an emergency stay to delay a court order opening the military to transgender recruits. The military isn't about feelings, it's about the mission, and Trump gets it. He also respects states' rights. He signed 2 executive orders this month to give back about 2 million acres to the state of Utah. Trump also keeps his promises, unlike the last 3 presidents who promised to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, but never did. Under President Trump's historic action, Israel will no longer be kicked in the face. And finally, tax reform. The Senate felt Trump's kick in the butt and passed the biggest rewrite of the tax system since the Reagan administration. And the Democrats are against it because they think they know how to spend your money better than you do, and the thought of giving this president any victory, even if it helps Americans, makes them physically ill. Well, in Trump's America, we buy, hire, and win like Americans. And I'm not sick of winning yet. What I am sick of is this fake news media's obsession with trying to destroy this administration. It's an outrage. These so-called journalists don't care, and that's sick and wrong. It would be a Christmas miracle if they highlighted one, just one, of this president's achievements. If a Democrat president turned around an economy in 9 months, created 1.5 million jobs, oversaw 15-plus record highs in the stock market, signed over 50-plus bills into law, and confirmed a record number of judges, the leftists would carve him into Mount Rushmore. It's time for these idiots to realize we didn't elect Donald Trump to be nice. We elected him to get stuff done, and that's exactly what he's doing. Well, those are my final thoughts. From LA, God bless, and take care. It's time for a special Christmas edition of Final Thoughts. And it may be winter, but it's still melting season. Snowflake melting season, that is. Uh-oh, have I already offended you? Well, a new survey by a British insurance firm found 72% of 16 to 24-year-olds believe the term snowflake is unfairly applied to millennials. 74% of respondents took it a step farther, arguing they believe the use of the label could have a negative effect on young people's mental health. And that, my friends, is special snowflake syndrome at its finest. So what is a snowflake? Well, allow me to explain. If you occupy the streets in protest more frequently than you occupy a shower or a job, you're a snowflake. If you've convinced yourself that despite any actual evidence, Russia somehow stole the election from Hillary, you are a snowflake. If your favorite arts and crafts projects consist of knitting pink hats in the shape of reproductive organs or scribbling resist on cardboard signs, you are a snowflake. If choosing between 2 gender options seems unfair to you, you are a snowflake. If you demand a safe space from conservative speakers but think it's perfectly acceptable to burn and smash up your own campus in protest, you are a snowflake. A violent snowflake, but a snowflake nonetheless. If you think you, by virtue of being born, deserve a participation trophy, you are a snowflake. If you think someone else should pay for your college education, you are a snowflake. There is no such thing as free. It's not free if your neighbor pays for it. If you think borders, walls, and immigration laws are mean, you are a snowflake. If recognizing the Islam and radical Islamic terrorism offends you, you are a snowflake. If you think an AR-15 is a military assault rifle, you are a snowflake. If you've never bought, shot, or touched a firearm, but insist you are an expert on gun policy, you are a snowflake and terribly misinformed. And if the American flag and national anthem offend you, you are a snowflake, and you should take your snowflake booty and relocate it to another country since you clearly don't appreciate this one. If a simple Christmas greeting sends you into a PC orbit, you are a snowflake. And last but not least, if you are more concerned with what our president tweets than the great things he's doing for jobs, GDP, the stock market, border, and national security, you are for dang sure a snowflake. It's time to wake up and realize you are special to your parents, not anyone else.
You need to get over the notion that the worst thing that can happen to you is hurt feelings. If you sit back and wait for someone to offend you, you're not living a very full or productive life. Dry your tears, accept reality, and get to work. If you don't like the way your life is going, change it. Life is tough. Get a helmet. Those are my final thoughts from LA.